All right, so let's start. Without further ado, let me present. This is a third training. I'm happy actually because this training, these videos, and this slides, because each time we provide the slides to the public for the people who couldn't join. And actually, it looks like they help because, in my opinion, they're long, right? Each time it's 45 minutes to an hour, but some people are really listening to them or going through the slides. So it's it looks like it's helpful. So third training for us, what we call the Connector Survey. So I am, it's me. And the first thing that I want to just mention very briefly is that the work that we do in terms of citizen science, because we don't own any site, right? We partner with a site and organization. We'll go into more details, but these are our site partners. They are not our platform partners, our data partners, they are site partners. Very, very cool organization. So I'm Claire O'Neill, I'm from Earthwise Aware, and here we are. What is Earthwise Aware? We're really focused on biodiversity. Biodiversity for us is very central, and our goal is to restore a positive human to nature relationship. So for us, explicitly or concretely, what it means is that we bring biodiversity knowledge and science, ecological ethics, and environmental leadership to the core, to the heart of organizations and communities and into the daily lives of people. We are known for different kind of programs. Many of us know us through our guides and etiquettes because we develop ecological guides and etiquettes about habitat, species, for handling ourselves doing our many human activities. And we work, by the way, these etiquettes with conservationists and scientists. So it's very appreciated by the scientists with whom we work. We're also known for our direct experiences. And one manifestation of that is our Nature Circles program. Our citizen scientists don't necessarily know that one, but we also provide or develop nature lesson plans that people can take and enact with their families or on their own. So for instance, we have what we call a forest immersion, which is a slow walk in the forest. Another one is about, it's a fun one actually, this one is a fox walking. So this one is really walking, bare feet on some soil and to learn how to walk that way. Some are about hiking and sketching, this kind of thing. So very, very diverse one. But most of the people know us through our co-creative citizen science. We have a very unique way of doing citizen science. For us, it's about both advancing biodiversity and climate research, and I'll go over that in more details. And something that is very important, another pillar, is this need, or what we think is critical, is to give science back to the people. This is our model. So our model is, of course, focused on species and ecosystem knowledge. Ecosystem knowledge is important to understand because we don't have a kind of a detailed or focused way of looking at things. We're looking at systems. For us, it's very important to understand things and how they work together. So we are more focused on the relationship between the part than just on very specific part, also only at the species level. Ecological ethics is one of our pillars. We're known for that. I am a data scientist and statistician, so I've always been very, keen to work in open and global science way, and democratization of science. You've heard about that. So we'll go about the open and global science. Oh my God, these two words are hard to say together for me, because we're going to go into some of the details through our citizen science project. All right. Something that people ask, a lot of people have asked this question because, there is something maybe a little bit intimidating because there is the word science in the word, right? Citizen science. And so I have that sort of question, is it hard? Not at all. So in not the kind of science that we do. We are observing, we are really observers of nature. Am I going to learn something is another question. It's kind of a odd question in a way. Yes, we are learning something every single day, and because nature is infinite in a way. Is it useful? absolutely, what we're doing is absolutely critical. However, it needs to be done in the right way. This is something that I'm adding somehow to this speech as of recently. Not everything that we do, a single picture or a little note about something that we observe, constitutes science or citizen science. So we want to be careful about that. Is it fun? For my little personal note, I have had fun for the past, 52 years. It may be an overstatement because I don't remember my early years, but as long as I remember, I always had really great fun being in nature. And I've always been an early observer of nature. So here we are. So the need, just to brush on the needs of citizen science and what we are really looking at in terms of systems. There are a lot of missing data and models. Right now, what we need in terms of conservation and nature observation is we need to understand, predict, and act in a timely manner. The issues that we're facing is things are changing very rapidly, and what was observed yesterday is changing today, right? So it's not because we've studied something past year or the past 10 years that now it's going to really follow the same pattern. Things are changing rapidly, and that's why citizen science is critical now, and certainly the kind of citizen science which is focused on system and observing the different parts of that system. The other thing is that not enough is observed, right? That's kind of intersect with what I just said. Often what happens is we have sparse data, meaning that some studies have been done 10 years ago, that happens for the fells actually, and then there is nothing for the longest period of time, right? So something that is more continuous in time is absolutely critical as well, so that we understand better the patterns as well. Important factors are missed altogether, and many models are unfit. So let's talk about the important factors that are missed altogether. And actually, I'm going to go further there. Is often as well, we have a tendency to be very species focused. And this is something that we do a lot in America. We look at, very specific little species. Or the way I say it is we're looking somehow at some trees in the forest, forgetting the forest itself, right? So we have little parts. I think there is a nice little metaphor with 4 blind men, in a room and asking to touch something, and they feel like pillars, right? And actually, because they are focused on one of their pillars or the thing that they have just in front of them, actually they don't realize that the whole thing is an elephant, right? Because the 4 pillars are connected, right? It's an elephant, most elephants. I'm probably butchering this little metaphor, but there is something like that out there. So, and that is very true. We can see it actually now on the daily basis. I see it when I take pictures myself, of some entities. We have a tendency to crop on a specific species. I keep forgetting sometimes to take the picture of the entire habitat in which that species is. Or sometimes, you have several species on a flower and you're looking at one and actually you totally miss, the other one. You don't see it. How many times has it happened that, I take a picture and I was so focused on something that it takes me to go to be back at home, to upload it, and suddenly realize that, oh wait, there was something else on the core of this flower. There was something right there and I didn't see it, because we have a kind of a tunnel vision, which is totally natural in a sense, right? So, but remembering that is important because we really need to take a step back and look at the entire pictures. Without going into the details, because you can really look at this slide, these are the kind of things or concepts that are often, or mechanisms that are often missed. And everything that we do at Earthwise Aware contribute in one way or the other to this concept or mechanism. The one probably further away for us is, evolution or genetic. If it involves genetic, of course, we're not going at this level. But the rest in terms of demographic, dispersal, dynamic, the interaction of species, what we do a month at the end to help in these areas. All right. The thing that is important to understand is that citizen science is important because what we do can help fill a lot of those gaps. Not just us, but many other organizations are trying now to get in this direction as well. So now going back to the topic of this training, this is about arthropods. This one is about arthropods. Remember, all of you knows that we do arthropod survey, we do phenology, we do vernal pool habitat assessment, we do general biodiversity, occurrence, kind of the easy entryway to citizen science. We want to have more of habitat assessment, where we do assessment of the plant community over time. This is a different kind of concept. we start to do pollution because, by the way, the dog poop project, this is about biological pollution as well. So that's a form of assessment of habitat. And we want to start about piloting in more depth this year about invasive dynamic, right? So when it comes to the arthropods, within this domain, we are doing 3 kinds of surveys. One is about seeing, and this is the photo survey through iNaturalist, and this is actually behind the scene. What it is, it's about species occurrence and mapping, right? Where are things happening of what we see? It's not about what we don't see, it's about what we see and actually what we can take a picture of, right? So, and the reason why I started personally to go in the other ones is because, okay, iNaturalist is good, but the thing that we cannot have a picture of is missing, in my opinion, from the big picture. And the counting here was a way to supplement this kind of data. So the counting, which is about species composition and abundance, this is a protocol, the project that we do with Caterpillar Scout, which is actually funded by the NSF, and they have a project which is called Phenomiss-Match project, right? And what they try to measure is abundance of insect in relation to the phenology of their host plant, right, over time. And for them specifically, they also make a link with bird because they are food source. These arthropods are food source for bird population. So I like that a lot. For another reason as well is because the counting mechanism is looking at order level rather than species. And this is something that is lacking. We have a tendency here in America to look at the species level, and so we are forgetting the order. And by measuring abundance over, across orders, then we have a better, bigger picture. And that's where we can start seeing decline across, population of orders. And the last one is about connecting, and there it's probably our deepest and more involved protocol because we are using the Nature Notebook protocol out of the National Phenology Network. And there it's about really capturing the phenological event on both fauna and flora. And the one that we do, for example, at the Growing Center is really looking both at the plants and the insect at the same time in the same survey. So these are some of the data that we're accumulating over time. So you can recognize the INAT map here, right? Species abundance and composition, here are some of the data that we produced last year, and we're going to continue that this year, right? And actually, yeah, across our different sites. And here are some kind of data. Actually, this is not the right, I'm just looking at the graph. It's an okay graph because it links different phenology of different species, but I'm just thinking that I want a graph that is a little bit better, linking directly plants with insects. But that's the idea, that's the gist. Okay, so today it's about the third one, connecting. Right. And we're recording through Nature's Notebook. So we are doing phenology, by the way. First, I forgot of that, I just added this slide. So why do we do it, right? And how? The pollinators are really an essential part of our environment, right? So what often we miss is that, or we forget, is that they ensure really the reproduction of 85% of the world flowering plant, right? So that's about, 2/3 of our crop species, by the way, right? Pollinators are extremely important. If we lose them, we're going to lose an enormous variety of what, we can eat, as simple as that, right? But it's not just about us, it's also, well, in a sense, yeah, what I'm saying is correct, because even if we don't eat directly all those plants are also eaten by other, entities in our world, in our ecosystem, and these are important because we might eat them, right? Many threats are really attacking or tackling our pollinators. The biggest one probably right now is habitat loss and the use of pesticides. Some countries, conglomerate of countries in a sense are making much progress there in this arena. Here we are definitely behind in terms of our use of pesticides and how it affects our pollinators. And we see that, we feel it in terms of the loss of pollinators. Habitat loss, very important. And actually, I also think, and I think I've seen some papers, is that climate change now, the warming, is also starting to have a greater impact on our insects. For a while, it was okay, there was a fluctuation with temperature, but now we're reaching such temperature that it starts impacting them as well, right? So data is lacking, as simple as that, because insects are not necessarily your favorite topic, right? We might be very interested on a very specific type of insect. So we start to have a good amount of data on monarch or on some species of bees, but across the board, we don't have much data because insects are not necessarily very much loved, which is a bit sad in my opinion, because they're really cool. So what we do here with this connecting or connector campaign or a survey is to monitor really the flowering time of nectar source for monarch and other pollinators. All right. These nicely complement our two surveys, and you start to have a feeling why, right? One seeing about occurrence, what we see, but it's not about what we don't see. The composition and abundance, counting things. And then this last one is about really understanding the dynamic and the connection between the parts, right? But what is also important is that it serves our studies, but it also helps local scientists such as Amy, for instance, or Thea. Thea is another entomologist with whom we work a little bit less this year. But our data is accessible to her. And as importantly, it also feeds national and global scientific efforts, right? So national here is because the Nature's Notebook is itself, it has itself a connector campaign. I think it called that the Nectar Connector Campaign, Nectar Connector Campaign. So by doing that, by starting to also add that into our panoply, our repertoire of survey, we're helping them directly, and they produce science. They work with other partners as well, and it turns into publication. So I'm pretty happy about that. So this is Nature's Notebook logo here, and that's a protocol that we use. So today is really to have somehow on screen this protocol. First, remember, we do phenology in one form or the other, or that's our sites here, at 4 locations. I should not say, yeah, 4 locations is a good way of saying it. So we have EwA, the Growing Center, where we have kind of systematic survey. Actually, this one is very interesting because it has all the surveys about the insects. We have EwA, the Fells, where actually this one we don't use, we use phenology. We do kind of phenology on the flora with the plants, right? We do insect surveys through the counting, right? So the caterpillars count. We don't do a direct link between yet with Nature's Notebook or the National Phenology Network between, how do you say that, the nectar source and their pollinators, simply because we are not necessarily in the best area when we are at Long Pond to do that. It would be much more efficient to do it where Bill is operating most of the time. Spend a lot of time at the, in this meadow on the other side of the fells. That is a cool area. I don't necessarily have the capacity. We don't have necessarily the capacity unless I succeed in having Bill wanting to start these things and monitor, on a more regular basis. So we'll see. We'll discuss that with him this monthly live stream that is happening next week. We had it at the Habitat, although this year it has been kind of stopped, dropped dead because it closed. I think it just reopened this week, so I just contacted them to say, hey, can we resume our work at the Habitat? And we have it also at Fresh Pond, and Lucy saw the Fresh Pond meadow there. Although we don't do necessarily the Nectar Connector survey right there using Nature's Notebook. Again, it's for a question of capacity. As soon as we have more volunteers into the picture where we can have someone going regularly, yes. Until then, I mean, that's not really, it's not a good use of our time. It's going to come. We just need more people. Now on the map, so here, right, we have a few of our projects. So on our map, these are all our location. Actually, we have more because, if you count at biodiversity, Dan is spending a lot of time there. There are other areas where people are gathering data in one way or the other. But the one that we do in a systematic manner are all these sites there, these locations, right? And then here, if you were to click on that, by the way, because everything is clickable on our slides, you would see, what do we see? You would see a snapshot of our dashboard as of, I guess, a few days ago of what was observed so far in 2020 using the Nature's Notebook from the National Phenology Network. I mean, it's amazing. By the way, I want to say something to Jen and Cassie. I don't know if Cassie joined, but we impressed some of the people from the Naturalists Notebook again, the National Phenology Network, because I was wondering why the data was not in sync. They do a kind of a manual sync in order to get to this dashboard there. And I forgot her name, Sarah said, oh, by the way, Claire, your team, you've gathered so much, data in this COVID time. And that's really thanks to Kathy and Jen, who spent time at Bellevue and at Long Pond. So I thank you so much, because it definitely freed my time, and we were able to keep a pace on our data. It's so great. I'm so lucky to have you with us. So that's that. Okay. Oh, I thought that I was presenting in full screen. It's not a big deal, but there we go. Let me try to do that. There we go. If you have questions, don't hesitate to interrupt me. Now, in terms of the phenology itself, so here it's a little bit of all our surveys, biodiversity, et cetera, and we don't even have, by the way, the vernal pool surveys showing on this map. Now, if you look solely at the phenology using the protocol from the Nature's Notebook, then these are the sites where we do regular phenology. So we have EwA on Spring, which is actually my street, and Jen has been monitoring regularly as well. Then we have at the Growing Center, and this one is a connector survey. And then we have Bellevue, I'm going to soon say Jen's site, right? And then we have Long Pond, and I'm going soon to say Cassie's site, right? So there. And Mina and Lucy actually were with us yesterday in the Long Pond experimenting with this protocol. So pretty cool. And as I said, the one where we do specifically the insect connector, where we start to include, monarch, cabbage white. Is it cabbage white or white cabbage? No, cabbage white, the butterfly. And bumblebees, that's the one at GC there. So, all our sites. Now, we have to be careful when we are on site. We need to exercise our 6 feet. It's super tough sometimes. Wear a mask, of course. And actually, I have a new directive from some of the sites, right? So for instance, I know for sure that at Fresh Pond, there is not more than 4 people, which I'm totally fine with it, right? Wearing masks, of course, at a 6 feet distance, right? And when we have the mandatory field training with newcomers, so what I usually cover is COVID-19 protocol at the time of the training, because it changed every week. The field ethics, that you know a little bit, we're going to see that in the next slide. The survey protocol, we go over that. We do a kind of a dry run of a transect walk, right, and talk about the monitoring practices. I give usually photo documentation tips there. And of course, it's a perfect time for the field training to have Q&A, right? I want to remind that we have our monthly office field hour. When is that? For those who want a refresher. What is this one? Oh, I know. I find that very confusing because of the office. So I was wondering if it was a webinar, but no. So for example, at the fair, so at each site, the plan is to have at each site once a month a field hour, where we just open it to the public, like, the climate and wildlife watch at the fairs. This is nothing else than that, where we open our session to the public, and it's a good introduction to citizen science and to show the field, as well as to attract potential new citizen science, right? And of course, we have the CITSI forum and our general discussion forum. Question about that? No, we're good? It's funny because right now I just have Lisa showing, so I don't have me showing, I have Lisa showing on my screen, so. All right. You know that. For us, it's really about seeking zero impact when we can, right? Of course, when we monitor, sometimes it's a little bit hard, right? It's only when we do vernal pool event and things like that, but at least it's about minimizing, disruption of where we are. And to always keep, a distance, only with birds, mammals, to let them be, or reptiles and amphibian. With bugs, it's slightly, or insects, it's slightly different. I mean, I have a tendency to be a little bit of a paparazzi. They don't seem to mind, but, be careful, by the way, by being too close, because a wasp could maybe, I don't know, not bite you, but sting you. It never happened to me. I love wasps. But, try to be careful of how close you are. In general, right, it's about keeping our distance, right, remaining quiet and not diverting activities. This is, I'm a birder, so I know for sure that a lot of birders also fall for that, where we have a tendency to crowd nests. So I always keep a very big distance to nests. I've seen a few robin nests this spring, and I always have a very, very long shot to them. That's why we have camera with zoom, so that we don't disrupt them. Right? It's actually kind of fairly easy to see when you are too close. Not that I try them. Some just are going to start mobbing. They're going to erect. They're going to look at you. You know you're too close. And some are going to scream at you. Robins are very good for that. And one day, for instance, I was with Dan. We were at Crane's Beach, and we didn't realize that we were too close to Turn's, nest. The nest directly on the beach floor there. And one started to mob Dan, and Dan couldn't understand what was happening. And I said, we're too close. There must be a nest somewhere. So we have to keep our distance. And indeed, we finally found the nest. There was a nest less than 10 yards away from us. So be careful with distance. Okay, these are regular little reminders, which I'm not necessarily to go over, but I want to actually do a little short form of that, colored form of that for our field, so that I can have it, colored one in the field, showing that to the people when we are introducing, our sites. Never cut off, remaining slow and quiet, no feeding or baiting. This is something that is very known to birders, and certainly in the case of owls. Not that birders do that, or at least not ethical birders, right? Ethical birders would never do that. We should not feed and bird. For example, throwing a mouse at an owl is not a way to get your shot. And a lot of people do that, and that's not acceptable because we divert them from their regular, practice of how they are in the field. I'm talking about the owl, not us. So for this one is an important one for us. We're not too bad, as we're so close. It's only when we start looking at insects, we come so close. We are low lens, we're looking, we're following, and we're not necessarily always looking where we are walking. And while we are chasing these little bugs very nicely at a distance, then we walk on all these things. So we should be careful to not trample, plants along the way, or to step on something that is alive as well. Plant is alive as well, but you see what I mean. So watch where you step is an important thing, right? That is going to be actually important in terms of insect. So when we do our mouse night, we're going to have white light. Then there is a specific protocol that I'll discuss at the time. But usually when it's not a mouse night, right, red light is usually better because it disturbs much less insects and mammals, as a matter of fact. There is only one case when the red light is not okay. It's for spiders. I just learned that fairly recently, where spiders are losing their aim, jumping spiders, for instance, under red light. If you put a green light, they're okay. White light, I don't know, probably not that good. But red light, they miss their aim. Very interesting. There was an interesting little article about that. So we have our etiquette for the wildlife observer and photographer that we should all, as citizen science fund EwA, to know, and the link is here. All right. I finally got Kathy. I was going over, all the pictures, trying to say, I don't have a good picture of Cassie, and I love this one. I think we were with you, Lisa, and when she found these two leaves. And then I love that one. It was actually last week. Oh, this week. Was it this week? I forgot. But of Jen with their little hand lens, of course, looking at sub very, very close. I love that one. So that was at the Growing Center. Okay. In a nutshell, very easy for us. It's to get to our site, or together or alone, a few times a month, right? The thing to do is to record, time, weather at the beginning and at the end of the survey, right? Condition, temp, wind, and humidity. That's something that you can do by taking a screenshot on your phone, right? And record these things at the beginning and at the end. Then you need to have, or to be familiar, of course, with the protocols, which usually you are when you do a field, training with EwA. And we also have the EwA interactive site map, which helps, getting an orientation of where we are with respect to the species. And then in the case of Nature's Notebook, it's opening the app, finding the site on the app. We're going to go through that and just follow the instructions. One thing to do is to make sure that you review and sync the data, right? Because if you don't sync the data, and if it's something that is not automatic, then it doesn't reach the database, and I cannot, right now I'm the one cleaning and catering for the data, and I don't see it. Right? So usually when I see that, if I know that you're in the fields, I'm going to shoot an email to say, hey, can you sync the data? So, all right, Nature's Notebook. This is a smart weed. I think this one was at the Habitat. So I think that all of you are there, but here's the step. The step is to create a Nature's Notebook account, right, or through the app. Then, okay, downloading the app if you're doing that first from your desktop, and download the app so that you can take records in the field. Then before your first field visit, right, go to your account and take the How to Observe module. They have a very good little module, which lasts about, I'm going to say half an hour, maybe, this one. I mean, I did it a year or two ago, so I forgot. But maybe half an hour, and it lead you through, how to observe with the app. Very helpful. And then they have also very good resources. Actually, Nature's Notebook is a very detail-oriented type of organization. I love that, by the way, because myself, I like both the big picture and the details, because I like to delve into details when necessary. So I totally enjoy that. It might be a little bit overwhelming for people who like things that are kind of clean cut, etc. That's actually why I asked Mina. Mina is going to be in charge to write a kind of a light protocol just to introduce the newcomers at EWA through the phenology protocol. Okay, but they have fantastic resource. Okay, joining our forum is important. All of you here on the forum, so we're all good. Because this is really, until the Seedside Forum, this is a great opportunity to share stuff. This is a private group. It's not open to the outside. The general discussion forum is public, but this one is really for us, EWA citizen scientists, where we can exchange notes, ask questions to one another, talk about the details, share events. Jen has done that. And of course, what Jen and Kathy are doing is really very much appreciated, which is to give a little bit of fieldwork notes about the session that they've done. And so in their case, because they do kind of deep, citizen science. And it is great for me because I can like that cross-validate their data using their notes, and I can link their note. Before I don't know why, I was cutting and pasting their note into our logs, because we have logs, which are also public. And then I realized, I just need to link it. So now I just link straight to their notes, and it's there. Therefore, a forum is great because it's an archiving system as well. So use that to share and help one another. Okay. The equipment, super easy. Your phone, your smartphone, the app, of course. So this is the app on Play Store or iTunes. I forgot what it is, the name. So you have that in the field. I should add something, I forgot that, is adding a battery. And certainly when we start to do all the surveys, so for us who are doing all the surveys, when we're on Long Pond, on this long loop, and when we are alone, then a couple of weeks ago, Cassie couldn't make it because she had something else. So there I was with my phone, and I opened eBird, I opened Nature's Notebook. I didn't open iNaturalist because I don't work with iNaturalist this way. I just take my pictures, but I was taking pictures, and then I'm missing one. And I had caterpillars count, and all of them were open at one point, right? So of course, it sucks data, right? So what I have is I always go in the field, with a little extra battery, just to make sure I can recharge. And as a matter of fact, for me, in my case, what happens is roughly mid-course, my phone starts to not have enough juice, and boom, I replug. So an extra battery is important, might be important. This little hand lens, I think that almost all of us have it. Lucy and Mina don't. I might have some. I'll check. But this one is 40 times. I think that I have one with 60 magnification. And they have even the light, which is pretty cool because bugs is one thing, but you can also look at lichen and details. And when you come so close, you don't have enough light, then you can turn on the light that is on it. So it's a UV light. And when you do that, in the case of lichen, then you can see UV light. Lichen is the thing where UV light is reflected, so you're going to see things popping in terms of colors. Pretty cool. But back to the insect. And binoculars is also good to have as an equipment. why? You're going to say, why do I need that? Because I'm looking at bugs. Well, because we are connecting the plants with the bugs. And when you are in the forest and you're looking, for example, at a host plant, which is an oak, and that oak is very tall, and you want to look at some phenophases of the leaf of that tall oak, then you need to have your binoculars because it's too far up, and that helps, right? So that's the reason for the binoculars. All right. Questions so far?
So, I just want to make sure, Claire, you know, I go to Long Pond. I've been going there the past couple weeks, taking photographs of insects. It's my understanding that this session today is more about insects, but did you say that you don't, that what you're talking about now, connecting to Nature's Notebook with the insects doesn't apply at Long Pond? Or did I totally misunderstand?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one served because, you know, you have the same protocol when you do the phenology, right?
Right.
So the same protocol. But we don't have bees, for example, that we're following inside. And actually, we're not going to really have bees. Have you noticed? There's not many bees when we go at
There's
P1,
not. No.
right? They're not there.
No.
We might see more at C2. So this is the first circle, which is where we start counting. We might have one or two, but they're not there. You don't have many pollinators there, right?
Right.
And when you go high, still same thing. You don't have those pollinators because this is not really the best area for counting pollinators there, right?
Okay.
That's why I said that, you know, if we can have Bill, because he has a meadow and there he can see a lot, that would be nice because then we can very easily for us plug a protocol over there that connect insect with him.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there it's really to go over, you know, Nature's Notebook, the entryway is to the insect, but the protocol applies to plants, right, and insect there. So you are on your mobile app, you open your Nature's Notebook, you click Earthwise Aware, right? Then here, so we were at P6, which is Growing Center. That's actually where we do this insect connector survey, right? The one that really linked with bees. So we have bees in the protocol, and you'll see that, right? So EwA GC, so at the Growing Center, we go there, we pick it, and that's it. We continue. These are also different kind of plants, which is interesting to see compared to what we monitor at Long Pond, for instance, right? Because look, they are really nectar source. We don't have cornflowers. Actually, what we have at Long Pond, we have a sweet pepper bush, right? Which is a good, in a sense, a nectar connector, except that I've never seen bees on that sweet pepper bush on the Long Pond side. Not that I look very closely at the sweet pepper bush, by the way, in terms of, okay, maybe there were some and we never paid attention, right? We also have, so these are some of the plants that we have on the Growing Center. So see, we have mountain mint, and they are all native, which serve another purpose, by the way, which is to also study the connection between native plants and their pollinators. So that's just the entry screen, right, about the plant and animals there, second tab, and then we go to observe. And here, it usually starts with the plants, and you could, so that's a sub-tab within the plants, right? And you can see that you have the plants, the animals that you're going to survey, and that's where the bees are going to be, or the different pollinators, in the case of the Growing Center, right? And that the usual site visit details. So here, just to go quickly, this is an interesting thing because we don't study this kind of thing at the fells yet, but here, so we always start to click the mark all phenophases to know, right? So all to know, and then the thing that I wanted to indicate here, so is make use of this little information. So this is something that really helped a lot. So here on the leaves of the purple coneflower, I was just wondering, and I wanted to have more information. I clicked on this little icon, and this is what it gave me. It's a textual explanation of the phenophases that we are, the phenophase that we are studying here in the case of the leaf. That would be wonderful to have pictures also there. They don't do that, probably because of storage. It's much heavier to load on an app, you know, all these kind of things. But even when you read it, right, it helped us a lot. Remember the mountain laurel? How many times did we go to this information stuff because we keep forgetting about the phenophase? So it helps a lot. It's nice to have it right there. Okay. So I forgot what I clicked. We can close, of course. So this is the kind of information. So here I clicked on the leaves. It didn't ask more than that. It's not like a deciduous tree when it starts to ask about, percentage of canopy coverage and these kind of things. For plant, for herbaceous plants in this case, it's much simpler. However, they ask you when you see flowers to count them, right? So in the case of yesterday or the day before, they were about, in terms of buds, there were a bunch of them. There were maybe 15 of them. So I picked, the range. And I think it goes from 0 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 100, 100 to 1,000. Remember the regular ranges. Okay, then I click that. Oh, this is for the next one. So here, this is about the open flowers. I should move that down. I should move the arrow down. So there was actually yesterday one open flower. Jen and I were a little bit surprised to see a coneflower is already open, at this time of the year. So I forgot how many flowers there were, but it was definitely less than 5% because it was only 1 over all the numbers of flowers that we had. So very simple. You estimate the percentage with respect to the totality of the flowers that are showing in terms of buds. Okay. There we go. What am I trying to show here? Oh, next plant. I should do a little bit better job here, in my opinion. So next plant. So eventually what will happen is, remember there was the Pennsylvania sedge, there were mountain mint. I forgot what we have. We probably have black-eyed Susan on this list at the growing center. We have a bunch of species. And eventually when you cover all the plants, then it's going to loop around, right? So you're going to go and then you're going to see that you're again back on the purple coneflowers, and that's your key, right? That, okay, it's time to move to animals. Right? So when you click on the animals, then here, this is what we are following currently, right, at the growing center. I would love to follow more, but remember that the Nature's Notebook and the National Phenology Network, what they do is they have a fixed database of species that grows, little by little. And the reason for that, people say, why don't they just add all the, the species? It's because for each single of these species, they have to validate a protocol that fit within their standardized protocol across, the United States. So it takes them time. So I totally understand where they're coming from. So this is what we're following. So oleander aphids are actually introduced. They are not native here. So it's going to be interesting to see them. They're often seen on milkweed. I like here, there's something that is very interesting. Because you see here, these guys are species. This is a species because we only have one honeybee here. This is a Western honeybee coming from Europe and Asia. And here, you might not realize that, but that's also a species. This is the only one that is not a species. This is a group here, right? So it covers, many different bumblebees. So it's a kind of a bag for all the bumblebees which can be seen. And it's nice. I kind of like that because bumblebees are very hard to identify, certainly when they fly very quickly, right? So it's nice to have that as well. For another reason is because then now you start to count across different, population of different species there. And I remember that 2 days ago, there was definitely a carpenter bee, so a bigger one. There was, I think, a brown-belted bee, which I've seen after the fact because I went through my picture. And actually, I'm pretty sure that it was a male brown-belted bee because it's much smaller than your regular female brown-belted bee, right? So you go through that very quick. So at the time, there was no, let me see what's the next one. I think there was no oleander. No, we didn't see any aphid. And here we saw some bees. So we click observe, and this is what happened, right? I saw only, I already connected that. So there was one male adult here. And it was before I could see the Eastern carpenter bee, which was later, actually it was after the survey. It was visiting a flower, spiderworts, right? And so here you see, you're following things that are a bit more detailed than just, counting stuff. You're really also getting an acquaintance with how they behave, right? So that's interesting. So if you were clicking here, which I cannot do on my slide, but you would have indication of what to look for when, how are they mating? Are they really mating? Or how are they building a nest? How can I recognize that? So it's fantastic because you learn so much, right? You start to learn at a detail that you usually don't, look at, right? So, and then don't forget to save the data, although I think it saved the data automatically. So that was a bumblebee. Okay, at the end of the station, that's what I had, right? So we had no oleander aphid, there was no honeybee at the time. I know that there is one cabbage white, often in this plot wasn't there. Last year, there was a kind of a pet monarch. I say pet monarch because there was one monarch throughout the summer, more or less. Although I'm a bit surprised because they have, there are 4 generations of monarch in 1 year. So I wonder if it was really the same one or several generations and we didn't pick that up. And then don't forget to fulfill or to fill this kind of data, which is the time that you spent looking for these bees, right? Or bees, pollinators. And the way that you did it. You can have stationary, walking, and I forgot what are the other options. The reason, by the way, for also using the growing center as a pilot site for, an insect connector survey like that we might do at, the Fells in Bill's Meadow. I'm going to say Bill's Meadow. I'm going to start, calling sites with people's name, right? So at Bill's Meadow, that's a very big meadow. So that's not half an hour. So you would have to have a survey which is a little bit more systematic, maybe having random plots, because you cannot survey that entire meadow. It's a gigantic one that would take probably 2 hours to go through at a regular pace, right? So the good thing about the growing center is that the little plot, it has 2 plots of native plants and it's fairly contained. So that's something that is easy to manage in terms of surveying it, right? Which is important for data because you have regularity. The plot is small, so you know that you have some kind of regularity coming out of it. So that's the bumblebee. All right, we fill that. We fill, the survey method. We save the data. And once you save the data, you see, because that's something you might miss, the check mark here. And that's pretty much it. Once you have that, so you've done the plants, you've done the animals, in this case, the insect, the site visit details is important. And I say that because sometimes it's easy to forget, right? But then, so usually I have an idea, and a couple of times I had to go back and to fulfill this kind of information, knowing, the time that had been spent at some site. So it's very easy to forget, but that's important information. We discovered one thing, and I don't know why I cannot do that right, and that was maybe Mina who raised that, or Lucy. Lucy and Mina raised that yesterday. So originally we were counting the time spent in travel, across the site, but that's not that. And the reason why we did not really record it, this is not critical information in terms of the survey itself, but it's good information for the Nature's Notebook. And it has nothing to do with the survey itself. What it has to do is about the engagement of the volunteers, right? So if you were clicking there, they are interested in the time spent to go from your house to reach your site and actually back, right? And I don't know why, of course, it makes sense, right? So originally I counted an hour or something like that, but that's not that. For me, it takes me 15 minutes to go to the site, right? And for some reason, of course, I forgot about the time. Then going back from the site home, that's also counting as travel. Hello, duh. So Mina or Lucy raised that, and yes, so now we're going to take the proper number, finally. And because this one here is, that's just for the animals. When you have plants, that's a different kind of time as well. They want an explicit time here about searching for the animals because there is an effort, right? That's very important in terms of weighing and the data with this kind of effort per animal survey. A plant is slightly different because a plant doesn't move, so it doesn't take much necessarily effort. It's a fixed effort. But when you look for animals, it's a different one. And actually, I can see it. Right on the caterpillar's count, the effort that Lucy is spending right now, for example, looking at a branch is much bigger than my effort. And I wish that caterpillar's count had an effort as well, criteria that they would input. That was probably what I wanted to say. I knew I wanted to have a note, send a note, effort. All right. Let's see what else. Okay, I'm just going through that and there. Yeah, I'm just mentioning the importance. The comments here, Jen makes a good use of that. I like that. Actually, Jen is it's great because I'm going to share that, but she has sometimes notes about, of course, plant pathology. So she's noticing something, on the plant, and she has a little paragraph there. So it's really great for me, because here I'm going and looking through the data, validating the data, checking that everything is fine, for the end of the year survey. And then I'm learning along the way, because Jennifer has this kind of plant pathologist, look on things. So it's really cool. Jen is also good at putting, the condition, the weather condition there, which we capture anyway in our logs, which is a different document there. So it's a very straightforward, don't forget to save the data, very straightforward protocol. And then when you're home, don't forget, or if you have, your data working, I do that at home usually, I sync the data. So you need to click on this little thing there. And so to go back there, so that's straightforward. The protocol is straightforward. What is hard is sometimes to identify the phenophases. But the way that they've done the app is very intuitive. It flows very nicely. They actually changed their app. This app is new as of last year. They had an older version of the app, which was so, not worse, but it was so much rudimentary. So the effort that they put in that is remarkable. I think they've done really a great job there. So that's that. The few slides there is about more, visual documentation, which doesn't necessarily pertain to the Nature's Notebook per se. You don't really capture picture when you do Nature's Notebook at all. But when we are over there doing our nature survey, because we are doing the other as well, the other surveys, the visual or the counting, and so the visual, then here are a few tips, a reminder of a few tips about how to take good picture when you can, right? It's hard on a bug because bugs move. I'm using wrongly the term bugs, but you see what I mean. But remember to try to have, side when you can, dorsal, the face. We even see the tongue of these guys. And if you are looking at the plants, right, that applies to the plants as well. Think in terms of parts, right? And take picture of the different parts of that plant, because these are keys for identifying. And this is another thing that we do. Through the phenology, we had recording species wrongly. So there was one, well, some are hard. There is one in my street which always puzzled me. This is, I think that I forgot what I had it originally. Maybe a red maple? No, I forgot. No, not a red maple. I think it was a silver maple or sugar maple. But obviously it was blossoming much earlier than a sugar maple. So then we swapped to a red maple. And the way we did it is we were gathering the phenology of this red or sugar maple. And then we were really puzzled, Jennifer and I. And so we took pictures of the different parts, we put them onto iNaturalist, and actually someone came back and said, oh, this is not a red maple. Actually, this is not a sugar maple. This is maybe a hybrid of the two, I forgot. This is a Freeman's maple, which is recorded as a red maple on the tree finder in Somerville. So, somehow the mistake was understandable to some extent, right? But it helps to take also a picture along the way to have confirmation of the species. We have a few species out there that I need to change on the phenology. For example, at Bellevue, we have, I think, a shagbark hickory that should be a pignut hickory. We finally figured that out. So, picture comes along the way through the survey because they help. They are a tool as well where we can supplement, more data, more information, and correcting, some of the sites, the plants we are following, the insect that we are following. So that's just that. And of course, if you click on this link, you have the full guide there. Okay. That's pretty much it. Let's go back there. Just a few minutes late. Are there questions about the protocol, the Nature's Notebook protocol? Right, clear enough? Right, I'm going to have back so I can see everybody. Okay, clear enough, Mina and Lucy as well. Oh, Kathy is here. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Good, okay, so I think the slides are okay. I mean, I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Good, okay. Then here is just, my favorite quote. I think that you've seen it now, between the report, right, the 3 webinars, it's everywhere. You've seen it everywhere. You must know it by heart now. But I love this quote. I mean, that's the importance of us naturalists and how we are somehow, steward of the planet with the work that we are doing. So learn it by heart. And here is just to mention to our public here about, the different kind, to remind again about the different kind of survey that we do around insect, right? So the insect occurrence survey, which is visual, the counting through the caterpillars count, this new one, which is using a protocol that we know very well because of our phenology work in the fields, which is this insect connector. And the only component is just to link some herbaceous species with their pollinator in a very specific location, right? So this is, the growing center is a pilot site, and then at some point when we have more capacity, we want to expand to our other site. And the two other sites that I have in mind is a fresh pond, because there's a beautiful meadow in the middle there, and then, Bill's Meadow, right? I think it sounds very well, right? It sounds good, Bill's Meadow, right? It's much better than my Reservoir Meadow. That's how I think. So, well, you're here already, so we're good. And that's it for this webinar. Good?
Yeah. I have something to add, actually, that you may have said, but I might have missed it. It's something that I missed maybe the first or second time I went out to do the monitoring. But that review button on the Nature's Notebook?
Yeah.
When you open that up, I always check that before I leave, because sometimes when you get that incomplete data and you go back, you can scroll through the whole thing. Yeah, so see that hash mark square? Yeah. You can click right on the date, right on that box.
Yeah.
And it brings up all the plants, all the animals you were supposed to monitor. So if you missed anything, if it says incomplete, you'll see where you missed something. You can click on that and it brings you back. And so sometimes it says it's incomplete when it isn't. But I'm always in the habit of checking that now before I actually walk away, because sometimes I miss things. Like I've got 8 out of 9 things that somehow I missed checking something or
and I don't know
whatever. So I just wanted to mention
I think
that.
it's a very good point. It's a very good point, because it happened to me at the very beginning. And I think in your case, you had one case where it happened for sure, because somehow your records were split into 2 sessions. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. And so yep, exactly. So when I first started doing it, I wasn't in the habit of checking it when I was done, and then I'd leave. So yeah, so things were kind of not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good point. I'll add something. I'll add a slide about it, because I think it's an important point there. Yeah.
And it's an opportunity before you leave, instead of going home and like, oh wait, I missed that, but did I see that? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, and I know a second time where it might have happened. If you had checked it, you would have known, is when you missed the caterpillars.
What caterpillars?
The Eastern 10 caterpillar. Didn't you have a?
Oh yeah. That was one. Yeah, I did.
Right. So actually,
I did. I was preoccupied and I left without checking something. But if I had clicked this box, I would have seen that. So.
It's a very good point. I should do that. I'm not in the habit of that. I think it's a very good point. I'll add a slide about it.
Yeah, I've been trying to really make a habit out of it.
Yeah. Kathy, do you have something that you've noticed, something that makes something that you forget often, or something that you find Nature's Notebook is good about that I might have missed?
Well, I think that things that are really helpful are looking at those information buttons for phenophases and really trying to learn what they mean, and the among different kinds of plants. Trees have different definitions for leaves and things like that than plants. So that are more forbs, I guess you call them. So the Indian cucumber root has different criteria than the blueberries and the maple trees. Not just different things listed, but the information button has different information. And I on what, just adding on to what Jennifer just said, I usually, as I'm exiting the last species at a site, I go to the review screen and make sure I'm done. I just do that because I'm forgetful and I figure I got to do it then or I'm going to forget. And it has been helpful because I do notice something could be missing. I discovered that square around the date a few weeks ago. I didn't notice that at all last year, and it is helpful.
Excellent. Great. So now you're fully equipped, Lisa, Mina, Lucy. You know everything that is to be known.